Hi everybody and welcome to our July video. I'm Jan and I'm one of our Vice Presidents and I'll be filling in for Helen today. I have a few updates to get out the way before we begin. I'm sure by now you all know that next year's subs will be due on the 1st of April rather than the 1st of January, and going forward they'll always be due in April, so if you have any questions about this, let Helen or Wendy know. Two of the CFWI events planned for the autumn have been cancelled. The Mobile Phone Photography Day on the 15th of September and the Propagation Workshop on the 23rd of October. If you applied to attend either of these events, you will be refunded. One of the new CFW events to have been added, Make and Decorate a Tunis Cake for Christmas, is the 24th of November at Chynarth. Sounds like fun, and I hope they've got enough room for all of the cakes that will be made on those days. Our book club continues to meet monthly via Zoom. Their next meeting will be on Friday the 31st of July and they'll be discussing Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. So that sounds like interesting to me. I do hope you'll be able to join in our Zoom meeting on Monday the 20th, which is our regular WI evening, at 7:30 on Zoom. This time we're having a live speaker by the name of Trevor Wiltshire, who owns Pencarn, a garden in Wadebridge. Trevor is a renowned cyclamen expert and will be telling us all about his own garden. I do hope we can visit it in person one day. So I'm really pleased to introduce our guest speaker now. He's Craig Johnson, the man behind the Squashbox Theatre. Craig performs his family shows at the Minack, the Acorn and various other venues both locally and further afield. If you haven't seen the Squashbox show, you've really missed out and they're great fun. Craig has also spent many years acting with the acclaimed Kneehigh Theatre. He's now going to talk to us about his career and tell us how he became an actor. Thank you, Craig.
Hello everybody, my name is Craig Johnson and I am an actor, performer, puppeteer, musician. Basically put me on the stage in front of an audience and I shall do my best to try and entertain them. So I thought I would talk to you about what I do and how I sort of got into this line of work and some of the things that I have done over the years. The first thing to say is that I never really intended to be an actor or a performer for a living. I was a bit too shy to be an actor. It was only really when I got to my teens in sixth form at school doing A-levels that I joined the drama group and I did quite a lot of school productions. And then I went to university and I did an English degree, which is the degree for people who don't really know what they want to do. But I didn't do any drama at university. There were other things taking up my time and never really, put it on the back burner until after university when I got a job in a very unique and amazing place that I think changed my life. And that place was the Monkey Sanctuary. It's in southeast Cornwall, just outside the town of Looe. It was a sanctuary for Amazonian woolly monkeys that had been rescued from the pet trade. It started in the 60s. And everyone that worked there looked after the monkeys communally, lived on site communally. All decisions were made communally, which had varying degrees of success. But then everyone had a role within that, and I was the education officer. I blagged my way into saying I knew about education, but it was really learning on the job. We had schools visiting, I did workshops with them, and it really sort of rekindled my love of drama and performing. And that then led on to us creating these sort of seasonal performances. So we did a May Day event and I did some storytelling. We did a midwinter event and I sung a song and again told stories, in the wonderful tradition of telling spooky stories at Christmas. One of the theatre companies that I used to go and see a lot of in that time, so we're talking sort of early 90s, was Kneehigh Theatre. And at that time, they were one of the most exciting theatre companies to go and see. And we used to go and see them a lot at various places. And one day at the Monk Sanctuary, I got a phone call, and I happened to answer the phone. And it was one of the members of Kneehigh who were doing a show locally, and said, could they come visit the Monkey Sanctuary on their day off? Now, the Monkey Sanctuary was closed that day, but I said, yes, I'm here. Come to the sanctuary, I'll show you around. It'd be a pleasure. So I had this lovely afternoon of showing around some of the members of Kneehigh Theatre and chatting to them, and we really hit it off, and I got on very well. And a sort of a year or so later, I'd been at the Monkey Sanctuary, I think, for 4 years, and it was one of those places, there were people that worked there. It was their life's work and passion. I loved monkeys and conservation, but I knew it wasn't the thing I wanted to do with my life. And I left, and I had no idea what else to do. And I thought, I'm going to contact one of my good friends that I'd come to know through Kneehigh Theatre, Anna Maria Murphy, who lived down in Sancreed in West Cornwall. And I just rang her and chatted to her, and she said, come down to Cornwall, you can stay with me or a friend of mine, and come and volunteer at the Galawan Festival. Now, Galawan Festival happens every summer in Penzance, and it's a celebration of the Feast of St. John, and there are parades, and there are events, and there's live music, and large structures are made by school children and things like that. So I came down for the summer, and I had this wonderful summer living in Penzance, sleeping on someone's couch, and I volunteered for Galawan. I helped make things, I helped run the events, I did it all for free, volunteering. It's absolutely wonderful. And I sort of made a lot of close friends down in the West Penwith, Penzance area, and I ended up staying, and I moved into a room in a shared house, and I just got more and more involved in the local performing arts scene. Some of you may know the town of Penzance. Halfway up the main street in Penzance, there's a shop. It used to be a Tesco's. I think it's now a pound stretcher or something. But for a while, that shop, that area was empty. And Galawan turned it into a temporary pop-up Christmas grotto, an alternative Christmas grotto. And as an artist or a performer, you got a chance to have an area and create what you wanted. And it was the most amazing, magical thing. This would have been in the late 90s. It was incredible. There were local artists that created amazing installations. There were animatronics. There were things that you'd look, it was like a science museum. You turn handles. And I made a living room, and I made a puppet of Scrooge. And I would be hidden behind a wall, and I would operate this puppet operate the head and an arm from behind the wall. And I had a painting on the wall, and it was a painting of Scrooge's bank manager, and I could look through the eyes and see people. And Scrooge would sit there, and people would come over and look at him, and suddenly he would animate himself and say, what are you looking at? Get out of here. And because I could see people through the wall, I could say, you in the red bobble hat, what are you staring at? And it was great. And I would just make stuff up and improvise. And one day, the grotto was visited by Mr. Mike Shepard, who is the founder and at the time artistic director of Kneehigh Theatre. Now, I had been doing stuff with Kneehigh. I'd got to know some of them. I didn't really know Mike. But he watched what I was doing, and I could see him laughing, and some of you may have heard of Mike Shepard. He's an incredible actor. He gets things done. He's active, and he's an iconoclast as well. He's mischievous. He loves things that shake up the status quo, and he just loved this rude Scrooge puppet, and he asked if he could have a go. So he spent an hour sat there operating Scrooge, probably being a lot ruder to people than I was. But it sort of put me on his radar. It must have been the next summer that I got a phone call from Mike saying, I'm creating a small scale, 3-hander village hall touring show with Kneehigh. I'd like you to be in it. And I still look back at that and think, what an amazing faith he had in me. He saw something that he liked and he put me in a show. Granted, it was a small rural touring show, but it, again, another seminal moment in my life where everything changed. I started rehearsing, and this show was called Wolf. Mike directed it. It had 3 actors in it, one of whom was me. The other one was Carl Groves, who was a young sort of intern for Kneehigh. He's now co-artistic director of Kneehigh. He's an amazing talented writer and comic actor. So that was the first time I met Carl, and we've become best friends. And the third person in the cast was Emma Rice. So she at the time was an actor with Kneehigh. I think she directed 1 or 2 things. But this was her chance, I think, just to enjoy herself and be an actor again. And the show Wolf was a retelling of some of the myths and stories around Little Red Riding Hood, the 3 Little Pigs, the whole concept of the wolf in folk tales. Emma played the wolf brilliantly. Carl played Little Red Riding Hood. I was Granny and Dolph the Woodcutter. And we all played the 3 Little Pigs. And it was brilliant typecasting, because we became this little unit. You know, and we're very similar, me, Carl and Emma. We like our home comforts, we like our food, we like our luxuries, and it was just brilliant. We played these 3 Little Pigs, and the show went on tour around Cornwall and the southwest, and it was absolutely brilliant fun. It went down really, really well, and that tour finished, and I thought to myself, that was amazing. I've learned so much. How wonderful to have done a show with Kneehigh. So long, everybody. What's going to be next? And then shortly after that, I got another phone call from Mike saying we're doing another small village hall tour called Fish Boy, based on a Charles Causley poem. Charles Causley, the brilliant Cornish poet. And I was in that with 2 other actors, Mary Woodvine and Steve Jacobs, who are now both sort of stalwarts of the Cornish, theatre scene, and that was a great success. And the sort of time went on, and it got to a point when I thought, I'm working with Kneehigh Theatre. I'm a company member with Kneehigh Theatre. It's happened, and I began sort of being cast in bigger things, and all this time I was learning on the job. And what's so brilliant about Kneehigh Theatre, they're accessible, they are funny, they can be tragic, they always contain music, dancing, singing, choreography. They straddle highbrow and lowbrow beautifully. Something can go from a ridiculous slapstick comedy into a poignant, heartbreaking moment. It's an ensemble. There's always a director, there's always someone in charge, but a lot of the shows are a combination of scripted and devised. We do a lot of devising and improvising as a company, and it was just an amazing theatrical education. And I was more or less full-time then as a company member with Kneehigh until, sort of 2016, 2017. So I went from busking, doing bits of street theatre, doing little village hall tours, and then, I found myself on the Olivier stage at the National Theatre. I found, we did West Yorkshire Playhouse, we did the Lyric, Hammersmith, we toured shows to New York and Los Angeles and Berkeley, California. We went to South America, we went to Australia, New Zealand. And I'm saying this to you thinking, I can't quite believe how that happened. That whole time there's that feeling of, am am I meant to be here? Is someone going to come along at some point and say, what are you doing? Get off, you're not meant to be here. One of the most amazing shows I did with Kneehigh Theatre was a show, first was in 2003, it's called Tristan and Isolde, a retelling of the Tristan and Isolde myth, which is originally a Cornish tale. And so that was a show that was directed by Emma Rice, who you may know has now gone on. She had a short-lived tenure as the artistic director of the Globe Theatre in London, now runs her own company, Wise Children. But she directed this show. It was co-written by Carl Gross, who I've mentioned before, Anna Maria Murphy, and lots was devised by the company. And it was just one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And I played a character, I played several roles in it. I played Morholt, the King of Ireland, who invades Cornwall, and that was a brilliant role to play because I just got to be mean. It's one of the most fun things to play a mean character. Oh, I was nasty. And I got my comeuppance, I got stabbed in the eye. It was fantastic fun. And then I returned slightly later in play as a different character, as Brangian, the Handmade Result. So this, was the classic pantomime dame type character, big man in a dress, very funny. I got to do lots of physical comedy and slapstick, which I love. And I remember rehearsing for that role at the Kneehigh Barns, which are near Mevergizzy in Cornwall. And Emma does this brilliant thing when we're working on a character. Everyone will sit down, we'll go through the character, we'll write things down, we'll brainstorm, write all different words down to do with that character. We'll gradually sort of narrow it down to things that you can play. And you almost get interviewed by Emma and the rest of the cast. And it's like a sort of a hot seat thing. You're improvising as that character. You're acting as that character. And there was this brilliant moment where, so Brangian's a maid, and her main thing is that she just wants to do everything right. She desperately wants to please. She doesn't want to be told off, but she's not very good at it. She's a little bit prone to panic. And Emma got me to put oven mitts on, and I had to wear it, and then I had to serve tea wearing oven mitts. And of course it was really, really difficult. And it was just a brilliant way of getting the essence of that character. And that's the essence of Brangian. She wants to serve a beautiful afternoon tea, but she's wearing oven mitts. And just that concept was something I kept in my head. It sort of informed her whole character. But then, at the beginning of Act 2 of Tristan and Isolde, there's this amazing change of mood. Act 1 ends with a wedding. King Mark is married to Isolde. He has no idea that Isolde is in love with Tristan, who's one of his trusted knights. They're having an affair. And Act 2 begins with their wedding night. And Isolde cannot allow King Mark to come to her chamber because she's no longer a virgin and he will know. So she coerces her maid, Brangian, to take her place on the wedding night. So this was just a brilliant piece of theatre, because you've got King Mark, played by Mike Shepard, being led in to his chamber. He's been playfully blindfolded. He comes in expecting to find his bride, Isolde, in his bed, and instead he finds the maid Brangian. The maid Brangian is played by me. I'm nothing like Eva Magyar, who's this incredible Hungarian actress who originally played Isolde. And yet what Emma did with that scene is she turned it into a heartbreaking love scene where the king is fooled. The audience is tittering away thinking this is hilarious, but the king doesn't know. I mean, we have to suspend our disbelief to some extent for this. And there's this tender love scene between King Mark and Brangian. And then, so he's fooled. He thinks he slept with his wife. And then the scene following that is me, the character Brangian, addressing the audience about what has just happened. And I remember rehearsing this with Emma, and it was very sort of sensitively rehearsed, and it was just me and her and Anna, the writer, and everyone else had been sent home because she knew it was a difficult scene, because what she was asking me to do and what the script was asking me to do was to convey the thoughts of a young virgin who's just had her virginity taken away by the king in a way that she had never wanted or expected. She's dreamt of her wedding night and needs to explain that to the audience, how she felt, how special she felt, but how used she felt. And all the time, it's me. It's a big bloke in a nightie telling this. So the instinct, of course, is to make it funny. And my instinct was to make it funny. And I remember Emma saying to me, fight against every instinct you have to get a laugh. Do not get a laugh. And if anyone in the audience laughs, just try and just look at them and just hold their gaze, and just continue. And it was a really tricky scene to do, but it was one of the most amazing experiences that I've ever done on stage, because you could just feel the atmosphere in the theatre change as people were laughing, chucking, and then it would just go to silence. And people afterwards have come up to me and said that was one of the best sort of scenes they'd seen, and they were in tears. And I take a bit of credit for it, but mainly it was the incredible writing and the brave direction. And I think that was the genius of Emma's directing and of Kneehigh, that you go from, you're constantly subverting the audience's expectations. Don't go down the obvious path that they're expecting, and the ability to go from high comedy to high tragedy, from hilarity to pathos in a moment was absolutely brilliant. Anyway, I could talk for ages about this, but I did so many brilliant shows with Kneehigh. I do less with them now, mainly because I've got a family. At the time, I had a young family, and touring takes you away from home for many weeks or months at a time. Living down in Cornwall especially, it's very hard. You have a weekend off. If you're performing in Leeds and you live in London, you can nip home for the weekend. It takes practically the whole weekend to get down to Penzance from Leeds. So I was missing my family, and I started thinking, I need something else. I need something else that I can do locally at home in the gaps between Kneehigh tours. And I started devising an idea to do my own work. And I felt that what was maybe missing, having young children, I knew this firsthand. What was missing down in Cornwall and Southwest was really good family theatre, really good children's theatre. And I knew I wanted to create theatre for families that had some of the elements of Kneehigh, had some of the naughtiness, the mischievousness, the anarchy, the subversion of Kneehigh, with the playfulness and the joy. I knew I didn't want it to be patronising. I didn't want it to be twee. I wanted things in my shows that children didn't necessarily understand and would have to look up and find out about. I wanted to not play down to them. So I started devising this show, and I wanted to use puppets. I'd always loved puppets, storytelling, sort of things, elements of street theatre, music, playing my Squashbox that I've played for years. Got some funding from the Arts Council to create this show called The Sea Show that was all about Cornwall and the sea. And it was almost like a cabaret for children. That was the other thing. One of my bugbears in theatre is lack of editing. I'm always seeing shows that I think the director should have cut 20 minutes off this. It needed better editing. And Emma, that was one brilliant thing I learned from Emma. She wasn't afraid to cut things. Some of the most beautiful, her favourite scenes, for the sake of the story, they had to be cut. And so I wanted to, you know, I wanted to have lots of changes. I wanted to keep the audience interested. Anyway, that was my first show. Squashbox Theatre is what I called myself. The show was the C Show. I performed locally to schools and things like that. That was 2007. I was still performing with Kneehigh on and off. I then created a second show called Skillywidden, all about the fairy myths of Cornwall. And gradually that has grown up, and Kneehigh has sort of died away a little bit. For me, not for the company, soon hugely successful. I do much less with Kneehigh, and my main thing now is Squashbox Theatres. So although I miss that working with a company and being part of that team, I love being my own boss. I love solo performing because you can improvise, you can change things on the hoof, you can adapt. I just love that thing of having to adapt to the audience. Going out and thinking, okay, the majority of audience are toddlers, I've got to really change the way I do this. No, there's lots of adults in, there's a school group in, you know, change the way you do things. And working with Kneehigh has taught me so much about how to do that, how to improvise, how to, you know, how to change things on the fly. I now do schools performances, I do theatres and art centres. I've taken the show to, my shows, I've been to Northern Ireland, I've been to Europe. For the past 4 years in a row, I've gone to Geneva every spring and performed in a theatre there. Didn't happen this year for obvious reasons. And one of the most amazing places I've performed with Kneehigh and with Squashbox is the Minack Theatre, which is in far west Cornwall, a place called Porthcurno, and it's an open air theatre on a cliffside, so you're performing with the sea behind you, and that's become my sort of home from home, my regular performing spot with Kneehigh, with Squashbox. And I perform my Squashbox shows there for the past 10 years. Every summer and school holidays I perform there, and I absolutely love it. It's the most beautiful place to perform that I've ever been. You're contending with weather, you know, you've got to perform in the wind and the rain and the hot sunshine. I'm hoping that this summer the Minack will be able to have live performances again. At the moment there are no live performances in any theatres, but the first places to have live performance again will be outdoor theatres like the Minack. So I'm all keyed up for, as soon as it happens, I will be back at my beloved Minack Theatre. So who knows what the future will bring. We're in a very strange time at the moment. The arts is suffering at the moment, but I have learned so much over the years with Kneehigh and doing my own solo work. It's something I wish to, you know, I'm going to carry on performing as long as I can stand up. So I hope I haven't rambled on too much. So thank you very much for watching and listening. My name is Craig Johnson. You can find out more about what I do at my Squashbox Theatre website. I've been putting lots of little videos up online over the past few months because obviously I haven't been able to do any live shows, and I've had quite a lot of families get in touch with me and saying that they miss seeing me. So I've been putting lots of little videos up online called Squashbox at Home, which you can have a look at on YouTube and other channels. So I hope this finds you all well, and thank you very much for watching and listening.
Thank you so much for that, Craig. The talk had everything from monkeys to the Globe Theatre, and it was fascinating. So I do hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. We have no craft demonstration this time round, but if any of you want to do a demonstration for us, can be anything at all, we'd love to hear from you. So do let us know. Remember everybody, our next meeting is Monday the 20th of July at 7:30 here on Zoom. Don't forget to bring your flower of the month, either a picture or the real thing. And please do make a date in your diary to listen to Trevor Wiltshire talk about his garden, Pen Carn, in Wadebridge. It promises to be a really interesting meeting. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye.